Well, where do we start? That was not our best performance against Kentucky. I gotta hand it to Kentucky. They give us. It wasn't that Kentucky played one of their better games this season. Will Levis showed why he will be a NFL quarterback. He has a good release on the football. He only had that one bad throw, which was an interception, which was underthrown. Keely Ringo picked it off, which is our defense's best play this game. Defensively, we played all right. We bent we bent all the way down the field until the red zone. But we stopped them on their fourth down attempt on the first drive. Then we got the interception on the second drive, and then the rest was kind of a blur. They didn't score till, the third quarter, fourth quarter? But, this just, honestly, I don't even want to say this was a bad game per se. We didn't play up to our standard at all. But at no point during this game did I have a feeling that we were going to lose it. During the Missouri game early in the season, I had a feeling that we could have lost that game. Even Kent State early in the season. This game, no. I'll give props to Kentucky. They play a very physical brand of football that can rival, to an extent, us at some points. But their run defense, especially in the first three quarters, was just abysmal. Kentucky, if you look back at Georgia's previous matchups against Kentucky, their run defense has been their downfall. We have cauterized their rush defense over the past, ever since Kirby has got there, and even before then. Mark Stoops has got that team in the right direction. However, it just seems like one year they're 9-10 wins, and then the next they're around 6-7 wins. Now this year, Will Levis got hurt after the Ole Miss game. They were within a eyelash of winning that game. And he was injured against South Carolina. Carolina beat them. They lost to... Who'd they lose to? They lost to them. They lost to Vanderbilt last week, which Vanderbilt's actually on the upturn, if you hadn't noticed. They beat Florida today. Who else did they lose to? They lost to Ole Miss, South Carolina, us, Vandy, and Tennessee. That's right. But, they just had a rough patch there. They'll finish out strong, I think, especially against Louisville. Now to our offense. Kenny McIntosh, player of the game by far. He had over 100 yards, one of the only times this year that we had a singular running back, run for over 140 yards in a game. He had our only touchdown, and he really carried our offense. Stetson Bennett, I don't know if the coaches didn't want him to throw because of the wind. He did throw some. He threw one terrible pass downfield he waited too long for. That was an interception by Kentucky. The rest of the time, he was throwing either at or behind the line of scrimmage. He threw one pretty good pass that was close to being intercepted, but he put it right on Blaylock, just enough to where it could not be intercepted. And that was one of his better passes, but it was still at the line of scrimmage. But yeah, the offensive line held up pretty well. Running game was good, like I said. Passing game was whatever. Stetson threw for over 100 yards, intercepted. He was 13 of 19, which is not bad completion percentage-wise. But yeah, we ended up winning 16-6. It was windy. There, it's cold, but that's no excuse. Ain't that right, Ohio State fans? Anyways, what else happened today? Well, like I mentioned, Vanderbilt beat Florida for their first home SEC win since, I believe, 2018, when they beat Ole Miss. That's been a while. Or maybe it was Tennessee that year. Either way. Yeah, I think it was. But anyways, Vanderbilt got a big win. TCU won on a last-second field goal against Baylor. Michigan won on the last-second field goal against Illinois. Ohio State, if not for that fumble for a touchdown, would have won by 6 against Maryland. They ended up winning by 13. The thing is with Ohio State, they absolutely struggle in a lot of their games. They struggled against Penn State, they struggled against Maryland, they struggled against Northwestern, multitudes of other teams. They make their case look better by the fourth quarter after they have physically, after they had played around with their food for 3.5 quarters. They decide, hey, we're actually going to play offense and score 21. They are a very talented team. However, if they play like that in the playoffs, against any of the playoff caliber teams, they're going to get blown out. And I'd love to see that. Ohio State and their fans are very proud, they're very confident. A little too confident. But that's enough for that now. Michigan, let me save the rest of the playoff talk to the end. I got a few more games to go over. There was an event in Columbia, South Carolina, if you didn't know. The number 5, 9-1, Tennessee Volunteers traveled to Columbia, South Carolina to play a 6-4 South Carolina team who had lost this season to Florida, Arkansas, Georgia, and who else did they lose to? Oh, Missouri. I know all you Tennessee fans like to talk about us about losing to Missouri. Well, you'd probably be very surprised if you slept through today. You wouldn't believe me if I told you South Carolina won this game. Even if you believe me, you would not be able to guess by how much. You'd probably say, oh, they probably won in a defensive game, something like 21-20 or something like that. No. Spencer Rattler had the game of his career. Over 400 yards passing and 6 touchdowns in a 63-38 win over the number 5 team in the country. Spencer Rattler, the quarterback that got benched last year for Caleb Williams, left Oklahoma, and before this game happened, had 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions on the season. And not in 1,900 passing yards. Not even 2,000 yards passing. That just tells you how putrid Tennessee's secondary is. Now, I'll give it to them. I watched this game. South Carolina's wide receivers were absolutely just catching everything that came their way. I got to give it to them. They played the game of their season out there. Shane Beamer had them up and ready. I'll tell you that. Now, another thing about this game, Hendon Hooker got injured. I hope the best for him. I hope it's nothing serious. I hope he gets well soon. I hate it for players to get injured like this. It's part of the game, but I hate it. I hope he's able to make a full recovery from whatever it is. It looked like a knee injury. I just hope he gets better, because this was his last year. I hope it does not affect his NFL stock or anything like that. If it doesn't, he's going to be a great player. But anyways, prayers up for him. And Tennessee, have fun in the Sugar Bowl if you're able to beat Vandy this upcoming week. Have fun in the Sugar Bowl. So, playoff teams. What are the playoff teams left remaining? Well, we got Georgia, who, besides games against Kentucky, Missouri, and Kent State, have looked like the best team in the country. Even in the Kentucky game, I mean, in this same week, you had every other top 10 team besides Clemson, who's number, 9, look and struggle against teams, or lose, in Tennessee's case, to teams that were inferior. Clemson beat up a secondary of Miami that has just been ran by all year. They got ran by Middle Tennessee State. And Alabama beat something called Austin Peay 34-0 when they were only up 17 at halftime. My gosh, dude. When are they going to fire Bill O'Brien? That's just a catastrophe down there in Tuscaloosa. And all you casuals saying the dynasty's over, it's not. You can dream. I'm a Georgia fan. I know it ain't over. He's going to hire a few more offensive coordinator and defensive coordinators, and they're going to be right back on track. But you know what? It's going to be whatever. Kirby's just going to have to get this team ready for it. And you know what? That's fine by me. Bring the competition. Anyways, Georgia. Right now, we're still the number 1 team in the country. The committee, they can put Ohio State ahead of us for right now. Whatever. If they really want to, they can. But that just show a little bias on their part. Because, everybody struggled. I know I'm showing a little bias here, but whatever. Ohio State, I've already touched on them. Michigan. Blake Corum, their star running back, got injured today. I don't know the extent of it. I hope he gets better, just like Hendon Hooker. I hope he gets better. But Blake Corum was their offense, so we'll see. We'll see if he's back for next week against Ohio State. That dynamic's going to work itself out next week. The next one, TCU. They play Iowa State and most likely Kansas State in the Big 12 title. If they win out, they're in. If they stumble, they could still get in. I think at this point, since Tennessee lost, they have room for error. But if they're going to lose it, I don't know. They have room for error. USC. They got a big win tonight against UCLA. If they win out, if they beat Notre Dame and win the Pac-12 title, they're in. And the last real playoff contender, and this is the last one that would get in, Clemson. Clemson's last 2 games are against South Carolina at home and against a, right now, 2-loss North Carolina team. Their best wins are against Wake Forest, and that's it. NC State's not going to be ranked after this week. Who else? Oh, goodness, excuse me. Who else? Syracuse, I doubt they'll be ranked. Yeah, they lost to Wake Forest today. They ain't going to be ranked. If the committee ranks NC State again, they just don't. No, I just don't know. Seems like they've been ranked every week, even if they lose multiple weeks in a row. But yeah, that's the playoff contenders up to this point. If everything just went downhill, Tennessee would still have a chance to get in just because they have the head-to-heads against Alabama and LSU. So, in my opinion, they would get in over Alabama because they have a loss against the number 1 team in the country, but they do have that loss against South Carolina. So, I mean, we'll see. That's going to be a long shot. But right now, my playoff teams that are remaining are Georgia, 11-0 Georgia, 11-0 Ohio State, 11-0 Michigan, 11-0 TCU, 10-1 USC, and 10-1 Clemson. So that's my teams that are still alive for the playoff. Now, on to next week, we got Georgia Tech in Sanford Stadium for the first time since 2018. Let's welcome them to Sanford Stadium. Let's make it loud. Let's beat them by 40. Go Dogs.